Erikson and Allport. In this, we will be looking at their core beliefs and the articles that show what they look like in a real world mentality by Lindsay Ritzema. First, we're looking at Erik Erikson and the article about it. So the review of this article is that it focused on the influence of parents during the choice of a son or daughter-in-law. Marital choices of offspring will most often lack their parents' approval, which will then lead into parents using manipulation techniques on their children to get what they want out of a relationship. This will bring forth the trouble between son and daughters-in-laws and the parents with them. This technique occurs between the productivity and stagnation process, when a man or a woman is becoming more on their own and separate from their parents, which the parents don't like. The main ideas shown in this: the first is that people develop through crises by finding solutions to their crises, which will lead to personal integration. The personal integration shown here is that people are becoming a part of their own relationship with a man or a woman, and parents are taking a step back, which will cause conflict. The second main idea is the productivity and stagnation process, which is another of Erikson's progression and regression stages. The focus is during middle adulthood, where they will focus on building lives and focus on their career and family building. Next, for perspective, parents' virtue of care is their strongest virtue, and this will most strongly recognize the importance of blood relation when looking towards their child's marriage and subsequently the blood-related children. This will encourage them to want to have more say in the relationship. This brings forth a desire of control for the parents to help their child through productivity of building their lives and family. The writer of this article strongly agrees with Erikson's 8 developmental stages, but focuses on the 7th theory because we can frequently see the relationship between sons or daughters-in-laws with their parents-in-law. The effectiveness of this. This journal will focus on the 7th stage in Erikson's 8 developmental stages, but it does a good job of highlighting the truth that is readily seen in parent and son or daughter-in-law relationships. Next, we look at George Allport's article. In this, the article focused on school systems implements Allport's ideas to create a more inclusive attitude between students. When looking into school programs, these ideas were tested, 4 of them, and were found beneficial to increase interactions between people. This is through awareness programs, planning in classrooms, or with activities to facilitate a more inclusive culture. The main ideas found within this. Firstly, the contact theory. The contact theory says that there is a natural stereotype and associations that are created in life and based off of one's worldview that will determine how they view other people. But this will decrease by interaction and understanding of experiences with others. But this needs to be purposeful, and it cannot be something that is haphazardly done. This is done through meaningful interactions, equal statuses, and collaborative efforts. Next, for Allport, the perspective. The article was supportive of Allport's contact theory and started off by saying that it is true. They saw that this theory was to decrease biases and stereotypes in school system, which they saw as readily apparent. They saw positive results of this theory when implemented. Lastly, we can look at the effectiveness of this article. For me, this article was effective because I too agree that there are strong biases and stereotypes in the world, let alone just in schools. By using more positive interactions and going forward with them, we can see that biases decrease and understanding of other people increases. This will increase in a positive change in classrooms and hopefully in further workplaces. Yet, there was problems with this study. For me, I did not think there was enough ample data to support the findings made. It seemed as though he was more using allegorical methods rather than cold hard data to show his facts. Lastly, we will compare and contrast these two. These 2 articles are very different from one another because the first was focused more on analytics to support their findings than the second, as well as the human relationships were different because in the first, people were understood to be set in their biological ways after going through crises, After going through a crisis and going on to the next, they can't go back. They can only go forward and become more integrated within themselves. Whereas the second understood people to be ever changing as they grow in knowledge. They're not stuck in one way of thinking or a bias. They can continue to move forward. As a similarity between these two, these studies focused on interpersonal interactions and relationships and the importance of maintaining healthy relational boundaries. Lastly, here's the references page showing the two that I looked at and their ideas. All in all, these were very interesting ideas that compared and contrasted with one another, but were beneficial to look into how we can better relate to one another.